We have Elliot here, who's going to talk a little bit more about how it's going to go and answer some questions that people have. So if you want to get started, you can.
Thank you, Abby. Thank you everyone for joining in. I see Darlene is, I'm happy to be your nature podcast companion, it seems. And hopefully it'll be an informative session. Look forward to answering all your questions. I guess just in terms of format, I think what would be easiest is for me to just go through the website, which Abby has done an amazing job with the ECIS team at putting together, and kind of just walking through some of the resources on there, clarifying them a little bit, and then giving you a little bit of a better kind of flavor for what the competition might look like. So let me share my screen. Cool. All goods. You can see my screen. Yep. Okay. So obviously there's just a bit of introduction. This is about this session, and you can register right here on the website. If you have any questions, you can also email the team at ECIS, who will forward any of those on. The two games that we'll be playing this year are Minecraft Capture the Flag and Rocket League. I will be going into a little bit more detail about what those games are and what they look like. They are all recommended, age appropriate, and recommended for all three groups that we will be running this competition for. So under 12s, under 15s, and under 18s. Minecraft is very accessible and can be played basically on any device. So Windows, Mac, iPad, Chromebooks, and you can have kind of up to 5 players per team. And then Rocket League has slightly higher requirements, but still quite accessible for most schools. We found in terms of what requirements those are from a hardware perspective. So Windows, PlayStation, Nintendo, or Xbox, kind of any console there with 3 players per team. In terms of the dates of the event, so as Abby mentioned, this will be starting right at the end of January. We will have a practice day, which will be a great day to check that everything's working as it's supposed to, get you kind of all set up following our onboarding process, which I'll talk about a little bit later. And then we'll have 5 days of competition, so 5 different weeks, which will be effectively qualifiers. So everyone will get at least 6, counting the practice day, weeks of play. And then we will have a final on the Saturday, which will be a little bit longer, obviously, because we'll be going through the different rounds of, just a knockout tournament, as you would expect in most sports. And that will obviously only be for the top qualifying teams. Please note that registrations are closing on December 20th. And please also make sure that you're available at the right times. I know that I get my time zones mixed up all the time, working across different regions in international schools. So please do check that you are available at the times listed here in London GMT time, because obviously we'd love to have you all join, but we want to make sure that you're actually available and able to join. So yeah, that's kind of a general overview of the competition itself. I want to go through a few of the resources just briefly here that we have, then talk a little bit more about the game, and then turn it over to all of y'all for questions. So the first thing we have here is kind of an information pack. So sorry, let me actually pull up the right. Yep. So in this information pack, you'll find a lot of information about the different games, their minimum requirements from an operating systems perspective, what the game format will look like, description, anything you need to know about the games, and then our code of conduct, our rule book. So really kind of just like a lot of practical information about that is kind of summarized on the webpage, but going a little bit more in detail. So that's for the information pack. You then have a parent pack, which is really a stakeholder engagement pack, which talks a little bit about kind of all of the benefits of esports. There's some peer-reviewed research in there for the research nerds like myself. There's different bits and pieces about our philosophy, our approach, age ratings, but also just a little bit more about kind of the pathways esports has for university scholarships and careers. So really interesting read, and that can hopefully also help support kind of the educational vision for esports. And on that note, I just wanted to share, let me see where I put that. Yeah, so the case study, which is also linked here, which ties in nicely with this parent pack. So this was from another international school competition that we ran last year with another association. And we did a case study, which we'll be doing as well for this competition. And we just looked at kind of, we already know through the work that we do with international schools across Europe, the Middle East, and Southeast Asia, kind of the educational benefits of esports, whether that be for building 21st century skills, helping students find their place to shine at school, or put them on a pathway towards future careers, as I mentioned. But here we collected some kind of tangible evidence from teachers running this tournament on the ground themselves. As you can see, so this is just a quick screenshot of our platform where everything is managed for this competition. As you can see, 100% of the schools that participated would be disappointed if they could no longer participate in an esports competition in the future. And the platform really helped with all the matchmaking and taking care of all the logistics of connecting with other schools. So you don't have to worry about that. That's my job. We'll make sure that you get onboarded properly, you receive all the proper training that you need. It's really not that onerous. And we've tried to streamline and iterated that process over and over to make it as easy as possible for complete newcomers to take that on. And on that point, like 99.9% of our teachers have never run anything like this before, and they do just fine. So I'm sure that anyone joining this time around will as well. And that's our role, right? Our mission is to make sure that anyone, regardless of their knowledge, can run these competitions with the right training. Now, if we look at the key benefits observed in participating in esports, we really have kind of 4: 21st century skills, student engagement and behavior management, inclusion, and global citizenship. I invite you to take a closer look because I don't want to, just read at you for minutes here, but obviously esports is really great at boosting a lot of different 21st century skills, whether that be teamwork, communication, student leadership, resilience, problem solving. And again, this is direct from teachers, what they observed on the ground when running our competition last year. It's also really great at helping engage students. So we had one school that participated in this event who only picked students who had negative perceptions of school life, as evidenced by their pass scores, and who saw a really great improvement in those student pass scores and their outlook on school after the competition and through kind of their engagement in esports. Really encourage you to go see that. Belonging, I know, and inclusion is a huge theme for ECIS in general, and esports is really great at helping enable that. We have a lot of students who participate in our competition who, might not have another place at school where they feel like they can shine. And a lot of parents, even of students who've been typically quite shy, as you can see from this testimonial, were really excited for their children to be part of a team, to be gaining the kind of friendship and camaraderie that comes with it. And on that note, the majority of students that participate in our esports competitions tend to never have represented their school in a competitive fixture before. So in terms of belonging, feeling part of school community, it can obviously be a huge boost. As you can see, this was a map of that competition, but same thing with ECIS. I'm sure we will have schools from all over. And in terms of building global citizenship, building that aspect of also belonging to a wider global community, wider network of international schools, the competition can really help. So I encourage you to go look a little bit deeper at that kind of case study. I just want to then share the last thing up here, which is the guide to hardware, which is not the most exciting one, but have to touch on it. So our guide to hardware here just talks a little bit about what you'll need. It also helps you think about future proofing if you are buying anything, even though you don't necessarily, and most schools don't need to buy any hardware to participate in our events. But if you are thinking about investing and you want to look at this area, A, please do reach out. We're happy to have a conversation. But B, if you read through this in terms of how to future-proof, how to fill the gaps, and just think through kind of like the hardware that you're going to need and what, games can be supported by what type of consoles and things like that in terms of thinking ahead and future-proofing, which I know is also a big priority for a lot of the schools that we work with. So yeah, feel free to have a deeper dive into that. Hopefully that covers a little bit the kind of overview of these different bits and pieces. I just wanted to really briefly also talk a little bit about the games, and then we'll hop into questions. Let me just slideshow this. So the first thing, the first game that's offered out of the two is Minecraft Capture the Flag. So it is run in Minecraft Education Edition, which is a safeguarded version of Minecraft that was built for schools, which some of you might be familiar with. Minecraft is a sandbox video game where students can explore, create, and collaborate in a kind of virtual 3D world. And in this case, they are competing in a specific map that is ours, that we've built, where they are looking to capture, like they both have a base and they have to capture the flag of the other team. So we have a coach of ours who did a little kind of tutorial video that I'm just going to play for you real briefly here so that you get a little bit of a better understanding of what that looks like in practice.
All right, I just started the game. Class, you do /function.
Hopefully you can hear the volume. Abby, is that, yeah, true? Okay, cool.
Start if you are the host. And then right now the players are looking into the chest. They are loading up their stuff, and they get 20 seconds. And at the end of that 20 seconds, they'll all disappear and go spawn down into their respective bases. So here we go. All right, on the play field, this is the blue base and this is the red base. The players at the beginning of the game spawn into the basements, and then the object of the game is to leave your base, invade the opponent's base, steal their flag, which looks like that, and then return it to your base. So you saw the blue player come in from the side. He's trying to break into the base, steal this flag, and run it back to the blue base.
So that is,
there we go. All right, I just started.
No, please don't. And there we go. So that's just a little overview of the game. As you saw, and we'll talk about this in a sec, there's also some like building and kind of problem solving involved, because you can build defenses around your flag. You have to react to how the other team's building their flag. We've kind of identified these different skills, and everything that we do is typically centered around the kind of taxonomy of skills outlined by the World Economic Forum's Education 4.0 framework. These different skills that we outlined, the global citizenship piece is obvious, as we talked about earlier, the technology piece as well, given that they're interacting with different bits of software, but really on the innovation and creativity part and the kind of interpersonal part, we see that students come up with a wide variety of strategies in this game, and our more experienced teams, who've played this for a couple of terms, they'll come up with like, complex defense systems that they use different kind of tools to build. They'll, think of strategies like creating diversion fires and attacking from the side. So we see a lot of creativity, a lot of systems analysis, understanding how the game works and interacts, problem solving in real time, and kind of thinking critically and analytically. We also see a lot of cooperation, negotiation, and leadership, because if everyone attacks at the same time, then you're not going to be really good. If everyone defends, then you're not going to be really good either. So you really need to make sure everyone has a specific role, that you're negotiating and cooperating, and who's leading and who's coordinating everyone. So that's for Minecraft Capture the Flag. Just a quick overview. If you have any other questions, please feel free to reach out over email. Rocket League is so the second game that is offered. It's kind of an engaging game that combines soccer and vehicles in a team-based game. It is a 3v3 game. We see obviously some of the same skills. It is a really high-paced game, so there's a lot of like coordination that goes on. And communication is actually one of the biggest things from this game, because the team that communicates and coordinates the best tends to win out, because there's a lot of timing involved. It is also all based around physics. So like the ball bounces, and you'll see a little clip, but a lot going on at the same time.
And here we have parkour. So far he's playing on the Fennec, which is good for 50. So we'll see how that plays out. In, I guess, good confrontational car. You can see he's definitely up there in the corner, trying to get maybe demolitions or attack physically. Here we go with an air dribble. And oof, but he misses barely, passing it though to Ollie Rayan, and he scores. Congratulations. That was great assist play there with the sort of, I guess, ground double from.
So that was obviously being commentated by a student. So we, no worries. He has a ton of knowledge as well, which is another thing we see with esports. It's a kind of a unique opportunity for a lot of teachers to lead from behind. Student agency and student leadership is absolutely huge in this space because your students will likely know a lot more than you do, which can sometimes be a little bit scary, but is also sometimes really exciting because that means that, your students can take the lead and kind of, really like just be driving this be driving this forward. So let me just stop sharing here. So I think I've covered most of kind of, basic overview of how the tournament is going to be structured. Everything, as I mentioned, happens through our platform. So that's where you'll have all your fixtures, your teams, the results. That's where you'll have your kind of game day portal, which will allow you to connect with other schools that you're supposed to play against, exchange game codes. And again, we will be training you on all of this with some really easy onboarding processes and a few kind of animated guides to help you through all that. We will be there throughout the whole process online with you every game day to make sure that everything goes smoothly. And yeah, so that's just a kind of a big overview. Hopefully you have some questions. Otherwise, that means I either did a terrible job or a really good job, neither of which seem realistic to me. So I'll just stop sharing now and hopefully start answering some of your questions as they come in. And I guess feel free, I don't want to, Abby here, correct me if I'm wrong, but feel free to unmute and ask your questions or type them in, right?
Go for it. Yeah, you can either unmute and just say your questions or the chat works as well.
And if it's a comment, it can also be a comment.
Sure.
Well, Elliot, thanks for having us on here. We're excited. We're a small school in BC, Canada, and all the kids are very, I'll say, hyped about the opportunity to participate in something as fun as this. And one of our just conflicts is that during the competition finals, which is in May, this is, of course, if we would ever get that far, but we do a discovery week that week. So we take our kids out for a week and we're all around Canada, depending on the different grade levels, and there's camping and all that stuff involved. So we wouldn't be back for the competition final. Does that eliminate us from the possibility of still joining? Or if we were to make it there, somebody would just take our spot and we would still be able to have the fun in the other 6 weeks there?
For sure. That's a great question. And that sounds great. I wish I was going on that exploration week, to be honest. But yeah, no, you can definitely still join and, go through all the other days and someone will take your place. So, we have sometimes some schools that can't join the final for X, Y, and Z reason. We tried our best with the ECIS team to obviously plan around major breaks and all of that for kind of the ECIS community, but obviously there's, a lot of different schools and that's not always 100% possible, but yes, you can definitely, we'd love to have you join. Also, I will say that if you do qualify, in this case, for the finals, but aren't able to join, we would also obviously highlight the fact that you've qualified for that final day, even if you aren't able to make it.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yeah, that's helpful to know because the kids know that I have this meeting here and we have our morning stretch in about an hour or so. So I think they're expecting a little bit of a report back from me on how it went. So that's good to know. Thank you very much. And then in terms of that, I saw the Google Form sign up. Is it basically just fill that out with our interested parties and then we kind of move on from there?
Yeah. And we'll be coordinating with the ECIS team as you sign up. As you saw, the deadline is kind of by the end of December.
Yes,
we'll be following
20th.
up with schools for kind of next steps on their onboarding process as they kind of sign up.
Perfect. Thank you. And then just one final question. I saw that in the form there was mention of if we would have more than, I think it was like 2 or 3 teams per each Rocket League and the Minecraft Capture the Flag, if there was any, I guess I'll say, additional space that it would be considered. Is there a estimate on how many teams, like maximum, just in case we need to have our own kind of internal tournament in order for qualification?
Yeah, so I will say it is quite common to have schools do an internal qualifier
Okay.
if they have a lot of signups. Like we've had some tournaments where some schools have like 30 teams and they can only
Oh,
put
my.
four.
That's great.
That we can assist with that as well, like in terms of, you know, providing the map, providing any kind of just kind of basic support to help facilitate that. I would recommend, obviously, like we just want to make it fair, right? Like if one school has 30 teams and every other school has 2 teams, then, you know, it's not
Yeah,
going to
of
be
course. No, absolutely, absolutely.
so we'll kind of consider it based on the number of total teams that, you know, want to enter and how viable it is. But I'd say, and I guess I'm also looking a little bit at Abby here, but I'd say probably not more than 3 or 4 max.
Perfect. That's great. Thank you very much. Appreciate all the effort that goes on behind the scenes to put something like this together and to get it out to people like myself who never heard of anything like this before, and to get kids included in this. And I know that they're stoked about it. So just thank you to everyone here and all of your hard work, and also your team who's not here. So thanks.
Appreciate it, Dylan. Thank you.
If no one else has a question, I have one. Well, it was actually asked by somebody in our events inbox, but they were asking if there's one student who wants to participate in both games, and if that's possible, and kind of how the day works. Is there a schedule for the day? When do the games go on and such?
Great question. Yeah, so both games will be running in parallel because obviously, again, for scheduling reasons, it makes it, you know, just easier to find one time and coordinate everyone across that one time. So both games will be happening in parallel. So your students have to pick between one or the other game. Hopefully, you know, there'll be more and more opportunities to compete in these types of events, and throughout the year, they might be able to switch between different games, but it will be one game per student per event. Thank you, Abby, for the question.
No worries.
I have a few questions. Sorry, I was walking home when I was listening. So I understand if I sign up right now and I register a team, then there will be a few sessions to train the teachers on our responsibilities. Is that my understanding?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we'll be providing, rather than a few sessions, basically we'll be providing an onboarding through our platform, which will have things like confirming your teams, adding players to your teams, understanding, like we have effectively an animated tutorial of what your game day would look like, going through that. And then you have the possibility of booking a call with us if you have any other further questions or things that you want to clarify. And then taking all that kind of knowledge you've built up, plus the practice week, usually it kind of gets you to where you need to be. We also make sure that your students see those same training materials in terms of how to get into the game and everything, so that you can kind of share responsibility with your captains and your students and yourself.
Okay. The second question, thank you. The second question I have is, I haven't gotten a team. I just saw this, and I have a ninth grader who plays a lot of video games. I was like, yes, I know my students would want to build a team, but as a mom, this is awesome. Thank you. The second question was on competition day. So they all compete on that day. So they would come home at 4 o'clock. He has to be online competing. Is that my understanding?
Yeah, so that's a great actually point to clarify that that skipped my presentation, which is that we really encourage students to participate from school. And there's multiple reasons for that. The first is that when all the students are in one room competing together with a teacher in the room, we see a lot more benefits than if they all compete from home. And it's also a very different experience than, you know, they might have competing with friends or whatever it might be outside of school. So we want this to be a uniquely, you know, school experience, just as it would be for any other sport at school. That's the first reason. The second reason is that coordinating students from home, we've seen schools kind of try, and it tends to be, unless they're by default online schools, and so the students are really used to coordinating online, it tends to be a lot more successful just having the students there, being able to just address any issues they might have in the room, etc. So yeah, we typically would recommend running this in like kind of an after school club slot or at school. Now, we appreciate that given where all schools are based, that may not be possible. And again, it is possible in theory to compete from home. You just need to make sure that, you're taking into consideration the fact that you're going to have students that need to get to their computer, that might have, be doing something else, and just really be mindful of the fact that it can be hard to kind of coordinate students. I mean, y'all taught during COVID, so I think you you get the idea of coordinating students online and how that can sometimes prove challenging, but it depends. It's very context specific, to be honest.
Okay, because I asked because of logistics. I'm based in Berlin. My school is literally a bunker. So Wi-Fi is an issue. We can get on, but I know that the students have better Wi-Fi at home than they do on campus. So logistically, I'm just trying to figure out how everything would work, because even I haven't presented this to my students or even to my admin. But I'm excited. I want to make sure that I can book the room, the library, and then have all the resources I need for competition. Also, similar to Dylan, my students are gone in March. My 8th graders are gone for 2 weeks skiing in Austria, and then my 9th graders are doing their practicum in March. So they would miss at least one competition day, but not the family, just one.
Yeah, so that wouldn't be the end of the world where a team isn't available on a competition day. If there is a like mismatch, like, so if there's obviously an odd number of teams, then every week a team needs to have a bye, right? Just mathematically. So where possible, we will make, a team who manifests themselves as not being available that week to bye that week where possible. If not, obviously for fairness of the competition, they might have to forfeit that week. But again, if they win all 4 weeks and they lose 1 week, they would still qualify, for example. So we appreciate that, again, back to coordination of calendars, which is one of the biggest struggles with, all the different things going on in different schools. But yeah, we'll try our best to accommodate within the fairness of the tournament, obviously. And just on your point about Wi-Fi at school, we have worked with IT departments in the past. They are things that they can do to help with things like Wi-Fi, so they can like basically unlock extra bandwidth for specific routers at your school. There's a few things that they can do if they're made aware early enough that this is happening, so that we can kind of help mitigate some of that. And on that point, actually, there is also an IT checklist that your IT department will have to kind of whitelist, because obviously they generally have kind of general blockers that'll just say anything linked to a game, for example, will be blocked. So they have to go ahead into their system and say, this specific link is fine, this specific link is fine, this specific link is fine. Same thing for some ports. So there's just like one step that your IT team is really crucial in completing, which is just obviously making sure that your setup works. So yeah.
Thank you so much.
No worries. Thank you so much for your questions, and happy to see that you're excited to be part of this.
Hi, can I just ask a question? Sorry. Hi, Elliot. Thank you for the presentation. It's quite similar to what the other guys were asking in that, in terms of numbers, really. So for me, Thursday is the start of my weekend. So we might have some days where students won't be around. They might fly off with parents for the weekend. And I'm wondering, I know there's a squad, for example, with the Minecraft of 7, but teams of 5. If a weekend lands on one of those weeks where the students fly off, and I can only put together 4 of the squad, are they still able to participate in that situation?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And basically, the reason we have a kind of squad of 7 but 5 competing is so there's 2 extra subs. So hopefully, between those 2 subs, you'll be able to field the 5. If you are, like, let's say you only have 4 students, you're still welcome to compete with those 4 students. Obviously, you're at a little bit of a disadvantage, right? As you would expect. But yes, we do have, like, this today. We had a competition where there was only 4 students in one team because they had someone who was absent and they didn't have a sub, and so they competed with 4. So yeah, that's totally possible.
Great, thank you very much.
Okay, I think that might be everyone's questions. I think I might have left it long enough. Do you have any questions, Sarah?
I don't have any questions, but I would say that the little demonstration session that we had with the ACS school students was fairly short and sweet. And they competed with one another before at the leadership conference. So it was simply a demonstration, but the excitement was incredible, wasn't it? And the engagement, and just seeing the capacity growth. Also, you know, the young man, who was doing the commentating, who was incredibly nervous beforehand, but really gave it all he'd got when it was the performance time, as it were, from his perspective. And it just showed how just by playing together and creating together and competing with one another and together, it was a really empowering session for them. So just to give that perspective on it.
Definitely. Couldn't agree more. It was, I think it was great to see, and hopefully you'll see all those same things that we talked about during the case study with your students. So yeah. Yes, Brett.
Hey, so I've been like working with DAIGON for a couple of years now. I think trying to get to this point where we're doing stuff with more and more people, and they are great. So highly recommend anyone that's here, please move forward with this. They're really filling a niche that's really hard. I feel like you have kids that are super interested in gaming, but then, you know, you send them home and it's like trying to herd cats. And even when they're here in school, honestly, it can be a little bit like herding cats, but it's when it works, it's awesome. And my hope is that we can, you know, keep working together to get to that point where it's going to work even better. So I'm excited for you to be partnered with ECIS and that we are, you know, that we're trying this year. I'm really excited. I actually got some new computers up on the wall over here. So, you know, starting to build our little section. So we'll see, you know, we'll see what we can do. And yeah, just wanted to say I'm excited for it. So
Appreciate it, Brett. And yeah, definitely. And you'll have some fierce competition with Brett's students in the competition. So don't worry about that.
I will say we have pretty nice computers. We do not have great competitors, but they are very excited still. So it's okay. we will try to lose with grace.
I had another question. I was just looking at the calendar. On the 6th, we are actually on 6th of February. We are on our winter break, ski break. It's actually ski break. So I know you said you prefer that they compete in school, but they would be able to install the software on their own devices if I'm able to put together a team, because they are not in school. That's not even an option. They're on break. But they would be able to.
Yeah. The other thing is, if you let us know ahead of time, we also would be able to contact whichever school you were supposed to play and then try to see if they're available at another day during probably like the following week before the next. So like if it's on a Thursday and the next competition day is on the 13th, so maybe on the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday that week, whether they'd be available or not for a rematch. Obviously we can't guarantee it, but we would try, right? We would try to accommodate, as I mentioned earlier, for those types of scenarios.
Okay, great. Thanks everyone for your questions. And thanks, Elliot, for running through everything. I put the events email just now in the chat. If you have any questions, you can just email that. And then also the link to the website with all the information and the link to register are also in the chat. But yeah, I think that's it for today, unless anyone has any last minute things they want to add or any questions. Okay, thanks. The recording will be made available on the website and our YouTube as well if you want to come back and rewatch or revisit it.